Party. Mr. Kumar, you're from Punjab. AAP, historic victory. There's much talk that you may be joining the AAP soon. But either way, will you tell us today, I told you so?
Well, of course, I'm going to tell you I told you so. I've said it on every single channel that AAP was a tsunami waiting to hit Punjab. But there were people who were blind and there were people who were deaf, who would just not look or hear. And I said so.
Who are
on
these
the
people?
basis of a very intensive engagement in Punjab. Well, there were people in all political formations who just didn't believe what was going to come. And I think what has happened now, the larger political message of the victory of AAP in Punjab is that a new national political narrative is in the offing, in which parties like AAP and TMC will have a predominant role, and the Congress party, and I hate to say so, and I say so with some sadness, would be relegated to the margins even as one of the actors in the national alternative narrative which is being scripted right now.
No, you're making a huge point. You're saying that TMC and Congress, TMC and AAP will take over the Congress's space?
Well, of course they will, and they have taken over, and I'm now trying to tell you another thing. The return of BJP in UP also demonstrates that BJP is and will for some years remain the dominant pole in India's politics. So therefore there will be two poles, one led by BJP and the other led by a national alternative, a new alternative, in which AAP and TMC and regional parties will have a very predominant role. And that is being scripted right now.
No, but Ashwini ji, when you come to, victory. It's the day that you decided to leave the Congress that we invited you to join us at the Panchayat that we were doing at that time on the Punjab elections. And you said that because the Congress has its strategy wrong that you're leaving, and you predicted that AAP would win, which is what's happened. But many in the Congress, very senior leaders called me after that and said Ashwini is doing this for selfish reasons. He's doing it because he wanted a ticket for his son. He doesn't have the larger interest of the Congress because we didn't give him a ticket for his son.
Could you... Hello?
Yeah, I hear you well, sir.
Hello?
I hear you.
Hello? What?
We hear you fine. Okay, we'll get Ashwini Kumar back. But this is the challenge, that you've got the old guard upset very clearly, but the people close to Rahul Gandhi say they're upset for personal reasons, not because they have an ideological problem with what's happening, but because of their personal self-interest.
That's not entirely wrong. Let's be honest. There are many leaders who got a lot of benefits, went to Rajya Sabha and got other benefits from the Congress. They're not mass leaders. They would struggle to win an election on their own. So there is a point in that. However, if you want to combat such leaders, you have to prove that you can win elections for the party. If you can't win, how do you earn respect? You see, you can gain a position, but you can't earn respect. In a party like the Congress, which is a vote-catching machine, you will only earn respect when you can show that you can win elections. The problem the Gandhis are facing at the moment is a lack of legitimacy at one level because they don't win enough elections for the Congress party. Yes.
Can I make a point on this? We have been seeing this since 2014, that the Congress leadership at the national level is unable to win the party key elections. Have they groomed state-level credible leaders to be able to make up for that? No. So in such a situation, how would you expect the Congress to be able to recover from the losses that they are facing?
But are they even fighting? You win an election in stage 2. Are you even fighting like your life depends on it? The Congress had an opportunity in Uttarakhand. They had an opportunity in Goa. They were the incumbent in Punjab. How seriously did the Congress fight that battle in comparison to the state like UP, where they have long-term hopes, but in the short term they had very little opportunity? Therefore, and Ashwini Kumar, I was just asking you about that interview that we did with you earlier. It went viral, was buzzing on people's phones, and people called me to say, you should have asked him that he's being selfish. He wanted a ticket for his son. We didn't give him that, which is why he's left. He's not got an ideological problem with him. The whole lot, not just you, but everyone else who's leaving is doing so for selfish reasons. That's what the Rahul Gandhi camp thinks.
Well, could you have expected anything better from some of these people? And I know who you are referring to, and I will not name the gentleman. But when I was not given the Rajya Sabha seat in 2016, did I then leave the party? When I was asked to resign from the cabinet in 2014, did I then resign from the party? I have stood with the party through thick and thin. And denial of seat here and there can hardly be a reason for my leaving after 46 years of loyal and dedicated commitment to the party. But today I saw that the party was downhill, not only in terms of its moorings, but in terms of its willingness to learn. That is why I said they were deaf and dumb to the realities in Punjab. And at the end of the day, every political person, every public man has to be true to one's own sense of dignity and conscience, and also to the welfare of the people he represents. Punjab and Congress were poles apart. People were fed up of this circus that was shown over the last three months on every TV channel, including yours. At that point of time, it was a question of one's own credibility, and I could see it coming. And it is not that I didn't want the leadership. I kept telling them that things are not looking good. So therefore, everybody does politics for some kind of an opportunity. So what is wrong with that? And
so you're saying that AAP and Trinamool will take the space of the Congress? What do you see as being a possible solution? Do you think that if the Gandhi family were to make way, a new Congress could emerge? Or do you think that's almost impossible because many congressmen don't see it like that?
Well, I have never made personal comments, and I don't want to. I have great regard for Mrs. Sonia Gandhi, but quite clearly the writing is on the wall. The Gandhis are not delivering election results for the Congress, and Congress is known never to follow somebody who cannot deliver victories for them. You cannot claim leadership by will or by acclamation. You have to claim leadership by performance. And we have seen over the last several years, Congress is downhill. When we came to 52 from 44 in Lok Sabha, we applauded it as an achievement. What a shame for a party of 136 years. And now I only sincerely hope, in the best interest of the image of the Gandhi family, that they accept in humility the verdict and say, we've got it wrong. I hope they do that. They might redeem themselves a bit.
But do they ever do that? Do they ever take responsibility? It's almost by entitlement.
Well, they don't. They don't.
The tragedy of the party.
They don't. That is why.
It's not just the Congress. As I said, there are these defeat-proof netas. Imagine Akhilesh Yadav will have lost 4 consecutive elections. Mayawati will have lost 5 consecutive elections.
You can't compare. No,
Rahul Gandhi, just a minute. Rahul Gandhi has lost.
Battle. He's turned it into a bipolar election.
Whatever it is.
In the next election, he may still have a chance if Yogi doesn't do
Rahul Gandhi.
You can't compare Akhilesh with Rahul Gandhi.
No, I put all of them at one level as leaders who have failed to take forward the legacy that was bequeathed to them. Let's be honest. Mulayam Singh Yadav led a very strong party. Akhilesh Yadav has tried, but not good enough. At the end of the day, in the Western democracy, once you're not good enough after 2-3 elections, you give way to someone else. You're right that the Congress was never meant to be, unlike the regional family-based parties, it was meant to be a party of, where the party was not supposed to be the parivar. Like it or not, that's what's happened in the last decade. And if the Congress doesn't realize the writing on the wall, it's the biggest loser. But Sonia Gandhi should have recognized, particularly when Rahul Gandhi decided to step down in 2019 after the defeat, it was a huge opportunity to attempt a change in guard. What was wrong? Let's say whether it was a Tharoor, whether it was a pilot, choose anyone.
Because
have
he's
an
not
open
Gandhi.
election.
The mother wants his son.
Absolutely. And therefore, that's not the way a political party can run. That message goes right down to the people.
Okay, Ravi Kishan from Gorakhpur. BJP now, 274, coming close to the prediction made by the exact poll. Winning and winning in style. This is Gorakhpur. BJP supporters there.
Keshav Prasad Maurya is trailing.
Keshav Prasad Maurya is trailing. So this
CM is trailing. Very narrow margin, but trailing.
उत्तर प्रदेश की देवतुल जनता का ये जीत है। सबका साथ, सबका विश्वास, सबका विकास।
भव्य मंदिर बनवाने वाले को सत्ता दिलाए हैं। जय जय। That's the mood here in Gorakhpur. Yogi's bastion, Sansad Ravi Kishan, who spent the entire the campaign time not only in Purvanchal but also he campaigned in Gorakhpur, stayed in Gorakhpur, and that was the free time and this day when the hard work of the BJP, their entire campaign, and that is reflecting in the early trends. That's now mood of Holi celebration. Let's hear. Holi, Hare Rangava, Ude Asma, Khele mein Holi, Hare Rangava, Ude Asman, Rangava, Ude Rangava, Ude Asman, Rangava.
go across live as BJP supporters in Gorakhpur are playing Holi to the Minister of State in the Prime Minister's office. The Minister of State for Science, Technology, Jitendra Singh joins us. Dr. Singh, welcome. It's Holi come early in Gorakhpur. You've got your Gulal out as well. A big victory. The BJP now leading on 277 out of the 400 leads that we have available at the moment. Mubarak ho.
Yeah, thank you, Rahul.
So tell us, you're in the Prime Minister's office. Who do you attribute this victory to? Questions are being asked about whether this is the Prime Minister's victory, Yogi Ji's victory, or a combination. Yes.
I've been listening. Yeah, I've been listening to you since morning, and it's beautifully done analysis. I think this election result has broken many jigs. A, it was always said that UP hardly repeats a government. B, that there has to be inevitably some amount of anti-incumbency factor to a lesser or greater extent. So I think both the myths have been exploded. In fact, the other day only we had said that in Lucknow that this time it's going to be pro-incumbency vote, and Prime Minister Modi has, I think, sought to introduce a new political culture, not only in Uttar Pradesh but the entire country, because rising above caste, creed, religion politics is the politics of development, politics of vikas, politics of benefit with empowerment. So those sections of society which had somehow not received the kind of attention all these decades which they deserved have been reached out, whether it is the Ujjwala, whether it is the Swachhata, and you must have seen even in Uttar Pradesh, almost 11 crore toilets were built, and across the households, regardless of whichever religion, whichever caste they belong to, and they were given the nomenclature of Izzat Ghar. So I said the other day, 3S, Suraksha, Swachhata and Samman. And if you ask young girls across the state, they would confess that whatever else it might be, notwithstanding that, they feel much safer now compared to what it was earlier. It was very amusing listening to these young girls saying कि पहले घर से बाहर निकलते थे तो माँ स्कूटी पर अकेले नहीं जाने देती थी. Now we feel confident. So I think it's a beginning of a new political culture, and thanks to Prime Minister Modi, who has got India rid of that the culture which was deeply embedded in the feudalist thoughts of being tagged down or trapped down in caste,
Mr. Minister, you mentioned the Prime Minister and his role, and there's no doubt that the woman voter is something that needs to be looked at. You've got a huge lead, Mr. Singh, among women voters. We saw that in our exit poll as well. What about Yogi Adityanath, Chief Minister?
Yes.
Does this victory, Mr. Minister, catapult him on the national stage as a potential future successor to Mr. Modi? Is that how you see him now? How much credit do you give him?
See, as far as this this issue is concerned, I think this is a foregone conclusion. Prime Minister Narendra Modi is the leader of Bharatiya Janata Party, and if you are referring to the kind of you are tactically trying to mention the succession pattern, I think from the series 1 to 10 it is Modi, 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 Modi. So the election in 2014 was fought under the leadership of Prime Minister Modi. 2019 again Modi. Uttar Pradesh, it was fought under the leadership of Prime Minister Modi in 2022, and again in 2024 it's going to be fought under the leadership of Prime Minister Modi.
So very interesting. You're almost saying Mr. Modi is like what Amitabh Bachchan was in Bollywood in the late 70s, number 1 to 10, and then everyone else. But somewhere surely there's space for Yogi Adityanath.
You could put it that way.
There is space,
no, as Chief Minister,
Mr. Minister, for Yogi Adityanath or not?
No, certainly as Chief Minister he was entrusted with the responsibility of translating all the Modi schemes on the ground, which he has done diligently. So the credit which is due to him goes to him. But you cannot draw a match. I think that's beyond discussion. It's Modi all over.
Can I just ask you, given these victories, there's much talk because you're from that part of Jammu and Kashmir also going to the polls now in July, August. Is that the next agenda? Am I going to see you out there in a few months?
Yeah, actually, actually, what are the exact dates going to be for an election in J&K is to be decided by the Election Commission of India. But as far as BJP is concerned, I've been saying this all along. We are a 24/7 party. We are not the ones who start visiting temples on the eve of an election. We are always geared up for any election, whether it's a panchayat election, the district council, or the corporation, or the assembly. And the culture is such that each one of us, regardless of whatever the position, is primarily a karyakarta. So all of us, join the election campaign in whichever state it happens. So we are fully prepared. And as far as Jammu and Kashmir specifically is concerned, you would appreciate that the opposition parties have already, gone missing, because there's hardly any opposition left now. Because the reach of Prime Minister Modi's schemes has touched across the sections of society, not only in the Jammu region, but also in the Kashmir Valley. The beneficiaries of Izzat Ghar, the beneficiaries of Shauchalayas, the beneficiaries of the gas cylinders are not only women or men from a particular community, but across the community lines. And as I said that day in Lucknow, they may not say so openly for whatever reasons, but when it comes to casting a secret ballot, they always vote for Modi. And that has been proven by the kind of percentage we received of the women voters, even in Uttar Pradesh.
Absolutely right, Mr. Minister. It's an important point, and I think, Rahul, it's going to have to be developed by political scientists. 2 points. One is the woman voter, and one is the Labharti community. It's not as if welfareism didn't exist before 2014, but the ability to ensure that the last mile delivery reached those who really needed it is, I think, a big success of the Modi model. And the second part, as I said, is the woman voter. What is it that the woman voter has got? She seems to have got convenience, the Shauchalaya being an example, and importantly, she's got a sense of status. As the minister put it, Izzat Ghar. And I think we, even whatever else you may have flaws in the Modi model of governance, last mile delivery will have to be examined, especially the Labharti model.
And this is the second state where this has happened, Rakeshji, because exactly the same happened in Bihar as well, where again the RJD Congress would have won, except for women pushing Nitish Kumar and the BJP over the finishing line. Here as well, you've got the BJP with a 16% advantage amongst women, whereas the advantage amongst men is only 4%. Women are literally holding Prime Minister Modi and Yogi on their shoulders.
Prime Minister Modi has demolished the electoral patriarchy. The kind of the women were guided by their main folk in the election, whom to vote or how to vote. Now you see in the family, even some men are for some other party, but the women are taking their own line of action. But most important thing, one of the things...
so your mic has fallen, we'll just come back to
Can I just make a point? Right from 1952 to today, never has UP seen the top 2 parties getting 97% of the seats. They are getting now leading 391 out of 401 seats. This has never happened in the history of UP elections, that you have such a strong bipolar
1952.
contest. Right from
the time of the United Provinces.
We have not seen such a big percentage of seats being won by the top 2 parties.
And what it's done, therefore, it made it that much more difficult for the Samajwadi Party, despite what Akhilesh did. Interesting strategic analysis, because remember, Rahul, the highest ever vote that the Samajwadi Party has got is 28%. They are getting their highest record vote, but still can't beat the BJP, because the BJP started from a higher arithmetical base. And honestly, this is what anyone who should have studied UP would have recognized. Samajwadi Party needed a 15% swing in their favor. They've got about 6 to 8%.
Now 12% swing.
Yeah, but it's, you needed a huge swing. You're not going to get that, because the BJP is going to be where it is. It is getting that 43 to 45%.
This time what I find that Muslims vote remain undivided. Last time Muslims got divided. This time they solid vote for the Samajwadi Party. 2 things are very important in this election. Prime Minister Modi has created a national identity in different form, and the parties which are people from region, caste, linguistic identity, they are associating with this identity. Resurrection of the soft power of India in the form of culture nationalism. You see how the decolonized mind, how his speeches in parliament, outside the parliament, he's quoting the scriptures from the Tamil poet to the Ramdhari Singh Dinkar. These are all things which are disseminating in the mind of the people.
Look, these are good point. I just want to go back to Goa for a minute, because it's still boiling. Look at what has happened there. Aam Aadmi Party is a story. As I said last time,
but that's mostly the...
No, I'll tell you, 1 minute. Last time contested all seats, lost their deposits everywhere but one. They are now leading in 2. Remember, you know, for a political party, it's a slow ride up. It's not easy. They are leading in 2, and one of them is they are defeating Churchill Alema of the TMC, who simply took the TMC ticket, has been in every party, and he's being defeated by someone I met, Venzi Vegas. Again, 35-year-old guy who's contested a panchayat election, won it, now is defeating the mighty Churchill Alema by 2,300, which is effectively means that he's in pole position to win. The point I'm making is that Goa also is undergoing churning. In fact, if the opposition had aligned, the BJP would have been swept out. The only reason the BJP is winning Goa is a fragmented opposition, especially in South Goa. But if the BJP numbers fall to 15, we could have all kinds of games going on late into the night in Goa. So Goa is where the poll will probably take place tonight after 10 p.m. That's when.
So why are you saying it will fall? It could also go up just as well from 17 to 19.
It could, but I'm saying the only state, out of all the states, the only story left to tell. Meanwhile, a friend has just sent me, and I think it's fair, Uttarakhand is a real story. It's 2-1, 44 to 22. And maybe we need to look at what's happening in Uttarakhand. Maybe at some stage you can go to your election intelligence dashboard, Rahul, because Uttarakhand was a state where for 20 years, 10 years BJP, 10 years Congress have done alternate governments like in Rajasthan. This time it's being broken in a state where the BJP changed their chief minister 3 times. You went and met Pushkar Dhami. Tell me about that. What is it? Why do you think BJP has done so well in Uttarakhand?
No, Pushkar Dhami is too new to his job for him to have been a...
So what happened in Uttarakhand?
This is the Prime Minister's personal credibility, which is taking the BJP to power. If you see the India Today exact poll done by Access My India, 31% of those who voted for the BJP said they did so because of Prime Minister Modi. So in Uttarakhand, it's Modi who literally, despite the anti-incumbency against the MLAs in the state government, is carrying the BJP to power. So it's not so much Dhami himself. He's too new to the job. It's the BJP, the credibility the Prime Minister had is phenomenal, Rajdeep. The fact that the Prime Minister is still held in such high stead despite being in power for 7 years.
So let's look at it, because if you remember in the morning we were talking about Garhwal and Kumaon. Take a look at how this election has played out in Uttarakhand. First look at Garhwal. BJP 23-14. This is their Gad. Garhwal is the Gad of the BJP. 23-14. AAP is wiped out here. Very, very marginal presence in Uttarakhand. So the one bad news for the AAP today is coming from Uttarakhand. Not really made much of a headway. And maybe Kejriwal, as he admitted to some people, should have invested more in Uttarakhand than in Goa. Look at what's happening even in Kumaon. This is the heartland where the Congress was hoping to make a comeback. Even here, the BJP well ahead, 21-8, and even the likes of Harish Rawat are trailing their potential chief minister candidate.
We can take those VIP seats and show our viewers what's happening in the key seats. And that's the point that Rajdeep is making, that if you look at Harish Rawat in Lalkua, he at this moment is trailing on that seat. Now, this is very disturbing because he's your chief ministerial candidate. Dr. Radha Mohan Singh Bisht of the BJP has 31,056 votes at last count. Harish Rawat is at only 20,000, so 10,000 gap.
And I know for a fact he didn't want to contest because he thought his own party will try and defeat him. That's the nature of the Congress. And I don't know whether,
Let's take Pushkar Singh Dhami, who again, despite being chief minister, and there are many in the BJP in the central leadership who will be looking at this carefully, Pushkar Singh Dhami has only 8,861 votes. Not much of a
very close, very
trailing by 16 votes.
Kapri.
Just 16 votes.
16 votes.
So gap is small, but it shows that he's in a tough fight. It's not like he's the Sehwag who's winning the match for them. It's not.
Sure. Can I, do you have Pritam Singh? Is he there? Because interestingly, he was the other Congress contender who was hoping to become chief minister.
Singh.
We'd like to see how he's doing.
No, he's the
leading.
arch enemy.
So you see, he's the arch enemy. You see, the Congress is a house divided. In every state, they have some problem. Here it is a badly divided
No, but
house.
Rajdeep, all parties have problems in every state. There's a problem between those in the Sangathan in the BJP and Yogi Adityanath. The BJP set in a process to try and deal with that. They let everyone know that Yogi Adityanath is boss. You deal with problems.
You know, we have Ajay Kotial. He was the AAP's face here. He's trailing. You know, again, a credible face. Preeti, you interviewed Colonel Kotial. Why did AAP not spend more time in Uttarakhand? Did they make the mistake of investing too much in Goa and too little in Uttarakhand?
Well, internally, I'm sure that's what they will feel. And, we're talking about Harish Rawat. I'm quite sure that the AAP would have been very happy if they had Harish Rawat as their chief ministerial face. They hedged and hedged and hedged. Ultimately, they had nobody else but to go with. And that's only when they went with Colonel Kotyal. Otherwise, they would not have gone with him in the first place. It was right in the end when they had absolutely very little option left, is when they went with Colonel Kotyal.
You mean that AAP wanted Harish Rawat to switch and join them?
And Harish Rawat, it's something... It's not out in the open, but yes, it has been speculated. All of us have heard of it, that the AAP really wanted Harish Rawat.
They tried very hard. Harish Rawat said no.
But Harish Rawat, but the fact is, this is how the Congress treated him, because Harish Rawat at that point of time came out and said that I am a true blue Gandhian and a Congressee. I'm not going to leave my party.
Sheila, yes, very quickly.
I think as a serious journalist, it's very easy to analyze UP today, but difficult to analyze Uttarakhand. Uttarakhand BJP team is dropping all the balls, bowling no ball, their batsmen are not...
Number of people left the party.
Still winning.
Woman voter, as we saw in the exit
weak
poll.
opposition. Weak opposition. You have to capitalize on the other person's mistake.
Sure, but there was, as per our exit poll, a 10 to 12% gap among women voters. Some stage, someone needs to analyze why is it that so many more women vote for the BJP, even in an anti-incumbency mood in a state like Uttarakhand. And maybe the story will come out of that.
There's one more thing.
Yes.
As soon as Dhami came in, the first thing that he did, he did away with the Char Dham Devsthanam board thing, which was the principal grouse for the people who were angry against the BJP. He immediately came in and struck it down.
3 times CM changed, then lot of...
but look at the course correction. So Dhami was a Karyakarta person. He was Yuva Morcha guy.
But still BJP can manage to win, and Congress in the same situation loses.
क्योंकि एक संगठन होता है ना, पार्टी केवल नेताओं से नहीं चलती है.
You need hunger to win. The BJP was doing whatever it took to change. The Congress had Harish Rawat fighting battles in Punjab instead of Uttarakhand.
Sure.
Here is a look, very interestingly, at the number of seats the BJP is being able to hold on to. Of the 311 victories they had in 2017, we have in 224 seats, the BJP retaining the seats where they are sitting MLAs. They're losing 87 of them. So the flip is only 28%. 66 of those have gone to the SP, 2 to the BSP, 2 to the Congress. But 72% retained ratio is quite substantial. If you come to the Samajwadi Party, they had 47 wins last time, holding on to 68% of those, losing 15, 13 of those to the BJP. Let's look at tug of war, which is essentially a comparison between the SP and the BJP. In the seats where SP and BJP are 1 and 2, the BJP has a 67% strike. So if it's a bipolar fight between these two parties, 2/3 of those victories have gone to the BJP, Rajdeep.
And I think the worrying news that for the opposition will simply be this. In a mood where you're in a post-pandemic world, where Mayawati is shrinking, where you're getting consolidation of the Muslim Yadav votes, you still can't beat this juggernaut called the BJP.
Because you need more than Muslim Yadavs.
That's right.
But in 2012, you made government with less than these number of votes.
Because
it was a multipolar race.
That was a multipolar race.
You see, the fact is, at the end of the day, and this is a controversial point, if the Samajwadi Party and the BSP both were to slide in the future, because with every defeat, workers get demoralized. The Congress Party has to do what the BJP did in 2012, which is you stick to the ground, you work there. Priyanka Gandhi Vadra says, I'm moving from Sujan Singh Park, I'm going to live in Lucknow, I'm going to spend the next...
wishful thinking, Rajdeep.
It's not, I couldn't see, it's not my, I have nothing to do with it. But if you want to fight an election, you've got to fight on the ground, but you can build, because there is opposition space that will open up in UP. Those who voted for the SP will now feel disenchanted, will say, where do we go? The Congress has to realize, politics, Sharad Pawar told me, needs 2 things. Ek moti chamdi, thick skin, and number 2, patience. You have to be willing. Please tell me this now. Just a minute. Rakesh Sinha, I want an honest answer from you today. Okay? In 2012, Narendra Modi did not go and campaign in UP because Sanjay Joshi was in charge of the campaign and they had an old animosity. I was there, I've written about it. Nitin Gadkari begged and pleaded, didn't do it. But, from 15% then with Uma Bharti as your face, look at how politics has changed. Today, Yogi Adityanath and 45% of the vote. In 2012, did you ever think कि एक दिन 10 साल बाद आ जाएगा जहां हम इतनी बड़ी पार्टी बनेंगे? That's what the difference is. The BJP stayed the course. Atalji and Advani lost election after election, but they stayed the course from 3 seats.
But they were
Congress-
never discredited.
No,
See, you have a problem.
They were committed to the
Yes,
Sangathan.
but they weren't discredited in the way that the Congress leadership is.
Yeah, true.
You know, the Bharatiya Janata Party has right from the beginning the ambitions to rule the New Delhi, and that's why its strategy, its leadership, its ideology intended towards that. We have.
Did you ever think in 2012 that this would happen in 2022?
Yes, sure.
कि 10 साल बाद इतना बड़े पार्टी बनेगी?
बड़े पार्टी है, we are the natural rulers. You know, in 1980 when BJP was formed, what MC Chagla said on the dais in the Mumbai, the BJP is going to replace the Congress party.
Yes.
In fact, there are
But the problem is you've got AAP saying the same thing now about you.
Congress is in delusion. Samajwadi Party is in perception. BJP is in reality. That is the difference.
No, he's right. You see, look at where 1984 3 seats. What are 2 seats?
2 seats.
From 84, we are now 38 years later. It's taken 38 years. Politics is, as I said, Mr. Pawar said, you have to stay the call. मैदान में रहो. कांग्रेस का प्रॉब्लम क्या होता है, हार जाए ना, सब अपने घर जाते हैं, लट्टियंस बंगलों में बैठ के एयर कंडीशन
But that's what the Aam Aadmi Party did in Punjab and Goa.
That's right.
And Goa. 2012 TMC was there, but wasn't there in 2017. TMC's come back after 2012.
Politics, you see, Mamata Banerjee lost election after election to the left. Stayed on, eventually got the benefit in 2011, 14 years after she formed the party, because Maidan mein baithi rahi.
But
That's the
if
problem.
you're using your own analogy, why are we assuming that the Samajwadi Party will not remain as the principal rival to the BJP?
I'll tell you
But
why.
How are we assuming the Congress
I'll tell
can
you
take
why.
that position?
I'll tell you why. Because this election was, in my view, controversial again. This is the Samajwadi Party has reached saturation point. If you cannot win without your MY consolidation of the extent that you have, the Muslims are now going to look for alternatives. You see, that's the reality. This is a huge opportunity for the Congress, but a 10-year agenda. आप में दम है, 2032 के लिए तैयार रहो. Not कि एक election हार गए, मैं घर में and change your strategy.
Where they have a real chance, they can't win.
If that strategy was to
How
work,
are they
it would
going
have
to
worked
win?
from 2014.